Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Okay, so like it or not, here we are. The political cogs have moved, and here we have it. We got a bill. The big, beautiful bill. And look, I know people like Elon Musk and others have crapped all over this bill, saying it's too fat, it doesn't cut enough, it doesn't codify the cuts. But let me tell you, perfect legislation does not exist. And this? Well, this is a massive increase from anything you could have expected from Joe Biden. And while there's so much emphasis and so much focus on all the negative, there's a whole lot of positive. And speaking of that, the increase to ICE's funding, well, it seems like the president might actually be able to make good on his campaign of mass deportations. Let's just say ICE has been fully unleashed. I mean, the magnitude of this, I think it might actually shock you. Let me show you guys exactly what's going on. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, so the bill has passed. And of course, the GOP representatives are singing praise for the bill.
On this vote, the yeas are 218, the nays are 214. The motion is adopted.
Today, we're all proud to report that by passing our one big, beautiful bill and sending it to President Trump's desk to be signed into law, we are fulfilling that mandate. This is a once-in-a-generation piece of legislation that secures our border, unleashes American energy, allows families to keep more of their hard-earned taxpayer dollars in their pockets, cuts waste, fraud, and abuse in government programs like SNAP and Medicaid, modernizes our air traffic control system, strengthens our national defense, and so much more, all while implementing the largest cut in mandatory spending in our history. To put it simply, this bill is President Trump's Make America Great Again agenda being codified into law. From Minnesota to Texas and Maine to California, there are wins in this legislation for every single American.
And so the bill has passed, and like I said in the intro, we've spent so much time talking about the criticism towards this bill, but nobody's talking about probably the most important thing, the changes in immigration funding. Let's talk about the new ICE budget, which is now set at $170 billion. In other words, money taken away from funding illegal migration, and now a fraction of those dollars being spent to actual enforcement. I guess you could say flipping the script, and again, the scale of it, the magnitude, is something to behold. Top defense budgets if ICE was its own country. Take a look at that. ICE has more funding than almost every modern military across the world.
The campaign was about securing the American dream by not handing it over to 30 million criminal aliens and then handing Nancy Pelosi 30 extra seats in the House because they can rig the census every single year. And this is what Americans said. This is what they wanted. Your bill here, Congressman, is going to make ICE the 10th largest military in the world, which is really impressive. Funding it on the level that Canada funds their military. That means you're getting serious about mass deportations, yes?
Yeah, and you're seeing that all across the country. You're seeing it with Alligator Alcatraz in Florida. You're seeing it with Republican governors that are stepping up and assisting the federal government and ICE and CBP to accomplish this mission. We have, it's like 400 known terrorists that were on the terrorist watch list that Joe Biden let into our country. Murderers, criminals, rapists, you name it. We can go through all the stories and spend hours talking about all these criminals that were allowed into our country to terrorize our citizens. And we have a president that is going to bring national security back and get these people the heck out of our country. So you need money to do that. You need the manpower to do that. CBP has been woefully underfunded as it relates to the enforcement arm because Joe Biden basically used them as processing people for paperwork to allow people to come in and do asylum claims. So you're going to see this big push. You can already feel it in the country that people feel more secure. They're doing these missions to get these people out of our country. And it's exactly what you said. It's exactly what Americans voted for, not just the popular vote, but the electoral vote that put Trump back in the White House.
So ICE could deport all of Italy, according to this graph. ICE now has more funding than the entire Italian military. All right, got it. Switzerland, Brazil, Netherlands. ICE could really do a number.
This bill is making a very clear statement that the era of illegal migration is over. And the Democrats, of course, are trying to desperately and quite hopelessly fight it. But unfortunately for them, as they cry to the sky, as they give us their best dramatic performance, ultimately it seems more as a sales pitch than an actual legitimate criticism.
That's not what this country should be all about. Manu wasn't the only one, the only American citizen who's been targeted by the deportation machine, a deportation machine that will be unleashed on steroids by this one big ugly bill. We know that, in fact, is the case. That's not hyperbole.
Hakeem Jeffries is out here talking about a deportation machine, as if it's supposed to spook you. Oh, the horror. But most people hear that and turn around and look like an excited puppy who's seen a bone. You know, turn around with the ears popping up. Ooh, a deportation machine, you say? A deportation machine that will be unleashed on steroids? You had me at deportation. Yeah, I know you're trying to peddle an outrage, little Hakeem, but I don't think people are really mad about it. It's about protecting the American border. It's about protecting American sovereignty. And most importantly, it's about a paradigm shift. I think a lot of people are rejoicing, as it's about damn time American taxpayer dollars are spent on protecting the American border instead of someone else's. You know, it's been a blank check for everybody else, but a border crisis and chaos for you. Frankly, I think for a lot of people, it's personal. Well, this bill's gonna get the frickin' job done. And now just think about it, increased enforcement within the nation. ICE agents actually enforcing the law and enforcing American sovereignty, and that mixed in with the fact that the border is completely secure at this point. I mean, we're talking 0 releases into the country for an entire month.
0 border crossings last month from 7,000 a day.
In June, there were a record low number of both nationwide border encounters and illegal immigrant apprehensions at the southern border. Here's the craziest part. There were 0 illegal immigrants released in the U.S.
Illegal crossings in the border are 0 now.
0. Does everyone hear that? 0.
Illegal aliens into the United States in the month of May. Last month, 0.
In the month of May, under the Trump administration, 0 illegal aliens were released into our country by Border Patrol.
The number of illegal aliens into the United States was 0. 0. Even I find that hard to believe. Somebody must have gotten it, I think. I don't know, but they say 0. And the people that count them are radical left Democrats. So when a radical left Democrat tells me it's 0, I believe him.
Well, it's basically Donald Trump fulfilling his promise. Well, 2 promises that are of course tightly linked. Firstly, ending the border crisis, and secondly, mobilizing the biggest mass deportation machine ever seen in the country's history. And well, it looks like it's happening. But then of course, moving on to the general criticism here, I hear the critics like Elon Musk, they say the bill is too big, it doesn't cut back enough from Biden's spending levels. And I think that's a relatively fair point to make, although so much money has been added to the economy that, you know, you kind of have to expect at least some level of higher spending. I think that's kind of already baked into the system at this point. But again, to counter the criticism, what the Trump team is saying is that growth is the answer.
I was really worried that the economy, the Democrats were tying the economy down. It was kind of like Gulliver and the Lilliputians. The more they did, the more they regulated, we were never going to be able to grow our way out of this. And, you know, I'm going to focus on tax, but as I've said before, President Trump's economic agenda is a 3-legged stool. So trade, tax, and deregulation. I think we made great progress in the House today. And I've got to say, these Freedom Caucus congressmen and a couple of senators have reset the center of gravity in terms of the spending. They're holding people's feet to the fire. And, you know, I think that we are going to have economic growth like we haven't seen before. This bill has something for everybody, but one of the main parts is the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act that was 100% expensing of capital goods. So we've added 100% expensing for factories and agricultural structures. So we're going to have this boom in the country that it could be growth like we haven't seen since post-World War II, since the 1890s, at least back to the 1990s. And we are making the U.S. the best destination for capital.
Some people call it theory, other people call it a plan. Personally, I don't know what to think. It's not like I have a crystal ball for these things. I'm just trying to be as perceptive as possible and again, sit back and say, let's see what happens. There's always the naysayers and the doomsayers, the doom and gloom scenario. But from my experience, Trump's vision usually proves the naysayers wrong. And if they're saying they're going to tackle the deficit with high growth, well, let's just say I'm not exactly ready to bet against them. Donald Donald Trump's widespread tariff strategy seemed to work. Well, now let's see how their growth strategy works. Anyways, that's pretty much what I got for you guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.